Hey everyone, I got a request to do another tutorial video on how to vectorize some cassette art. This time asking how to do a cassette label. This is a lot like doing any other piece of cassette art like the J card for example, but there are a few small differences. Specifically you're going to need to use cut lines. So let's do another demonstration here. I've got a Nagamichi EX2C90 cassette label here. Definitely an older one, 1978 it looks like. It's got the original compact cassette logo. That's one way you can tell it's old. So why don't we get started here? I'm in Illustrator, so that's the instructions I'll be providing, but it's going to be very similar for a program like Inkscape. You just tools might be named slightly differently. First thing to do is you're going to want to create a document with the number of artboards you need and sized out. I've already done that, so you can see I have two artboards here, and I'm going to place my label here. I've already measured the size of the label, and we want to straighten it out. So I'm actually going to bring a guide down to kind of get it. We want to get this blue line. We know that blue line straight. We want to get our guide up on that. Okay, I got a big thing here, so let's do that. Check that out. A little high on the left. Or on the right, actually. Okay, I'm going to have to tilt that out more. There we go. I think that's looking pretty close. High, high. Perfect. And it doesn't have to be dead on center because everything I'm going to type out is going to be straight lines anyway. So when I type out words or create shapes, I'll make sure they're perfectly horizontal, for example. Okay, then we want to kind of center it here. So let's bring that up. There we go. Bring that down. Good. And I'll delete my guide and save my document. Next, we're going to set up my layers. So we have our reference layer. I'm going to lock that. We'll create 3 additional layers. I'm going to need a solids layer, text layer, which will be text and logos, and then a cut layer. Okay, we'll keep those all visible. And we'll get started here. I like to do as much of the text as possible I can so that I can place the solids behind them, or kind of do them piece by piece. So let's start by getting some text. This looks like we're going to try to do this EX2 logo. EX, let's hope that it's Helvetica of some sort. It looks like Helvetica to me. Maybe Helvetica bold, possibly. Okay, we'll make sure we're on the text layer here. We're on my cut layer, so I'll drag that down to text. Okay. Scale this up. Yeah, it's definitely Helvetica of some sort. Very similar. Skewed out just a little bit, maybe. Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I want to horizontally skew it out a bit and mess with my E or not. Yeah, I think I'm going to keep it the way it was. There we go. That's awfully close. We'll throw this to white to match. Great. Okay, what's going to be a little bit harder is this Roman numeral 2. I know for a fact my font set does not have Roman numerals built in, so I'll have to fake that. So let's do this C90 first while we're waiting. Doesn't look bold. I'm going to guess it's standard Roman. Yeah, that's awfully close. Okay, we'll bring that down. Just kind of matching everything up. Good, good, good. Great. We'll spread that out a little bit. We'll adjust the tracking to widen it out just a little bit here. There we go. And it looks like the 90 might actually be bigger than the rest. So let's cut that out and do that on its own. Yeah, interesting. There we go. It's awfully close. And this dash, while not perfect, let's see if it's an EM dash maybe, or an M dash, whatever those are called. Type glyphs. This, too much. Regular dash. That might be the only dashes we have here, so I might have to recreate that actually, because that's awfully short and I want it to be a little bit closer than that. Okay, so we'll go like that. and we'll just draw it out instead. There we go. Okay, now we'll select all of that and make it white to match. Great, that looks good. Okay, last thing we got to do is this Roman numeral 2, and I'm going to have to fake that too. So let's make sure we're on the right layer. We got white here. Okay, I'm going to go to the full height. Great. Okay, I'm going to copy this and move it over, keep it perfectly horizontal. So I'm using Alt-Shift in Illustrator to copy and drag it straight. Great. Okay, now I'm going to move this quick. It looks like that is the same width as that, or awfully close anyway. So I could copy those, but instead I'm going to manually draw it. Great, and I want it to be right on top. There we go. Okay, drag that down. Boop, right in line. Very, very cool. Okay, so we got that out. Let's grab this compact cassette logo. I actually have a previously vectorized version of that, so I'm just going to copy and paste that in to my text layer. Way too big. And this logo is easily findable as an SVG or Illustrator format. I got it online, and you end up using it a lot. So if you end up doing a lot of these, I suggest saving a copy and keeping it in your reference folder or however you store things, so that you have it for future. There we go. Make that white. And from my experience, the made in Japan message is almost always in a version of Helvetica, Roman basic, the standard version of Helvetica. Yeah, it's looking pretty darn close. There we go. Match up the kerning or the tracking. There we go. That's close enough. Great. Okay, last thing to do on this bottom row before we place our black behind is the Nakamichi logo and the word Nakamichi. Now, I've done Nakamichi tapes before. The logo, the symbol, I should say, easily findable online. Here's an example of it for reference. We'll go like that. Place that in, huge. We're going to have to shrink it down, of course. Remember to shift shrink so that you keep the scale. You don't accidentally warp it. But this is the modern version of the logo. So you'll find out that if we place it, actually that's pretty darn close. But it seems like they had them just a little thinner back in the day. Like this line on old Nakamichi tapes I found is thinner than the modern rendition of the logo. So I usually just skew this. No, maybe I skew it from this side. No. Let's do this. Yeah, no. We'll have to do this the hard way. So I'm going to have to grab this anchor point, and if I just drag this right, see how that's moving that over? Just to thin it out just a hair. There. It'll look a little bit better. Okay, I earlier color corrected this, so I know this of the background, this blue, is what I want to make it. So I'll grab that, place that, bink. Great. Am I on the right layer? I am on the text layer. Next part, this Nakamichi, the word Nakamichi. So you can find versions of their logo pretty easily online. You can see this. It looks awfully close, right? But there's a few subtle differences I found between, this is their modern, their current, their last rendition of the logo. But take a look at this K. See how it touches only at this point? And how these bars kind of point at a 45-degree angle up and down almost. Now take a look at this. Notice how the K is flat on top, flat on bottom. It's a little easier when you zoom out, but it's definitely not bars pointing. And when we zoom in, we can even say this lower bar is connecting to this bar, not going straight up to the K as a little point. So knowing that, I previously have recreated this in other versions. Here we go. You can see this version. Now you actually drew this out to get the subtle differences. It's almost like they combined a couple different fonts or something. It's like, it's close to Helvetica, but it's not. Let me see if, for example, I don't think it's straight Helvetica, but maybe it is. Yeah, it's awfully close to straight Helvetica. Norman, so let's go ahead and place that in. There you go. It's a little bit closer. Okay, got that in. And they placed that to the left, so I suppose we should make sure this line's up like that, then we'll move it down. There. That way those two shapes are aligned. Okay, now let's create our black layer behind it so we can start to see the fruit of our efforts here. So this is white, I want that to be solid black. Great. Drag this up. Great, see, and we're already having a great, nice looking tape here. Okay, next we can draw this blue solid. There's nothing behind that, but before I do that, we're going to have to account for this cutout. I can't just draw a bunch of solid blue and not account for this cutout. One thing you could do is draw a white shape, this exact shape. But I'm not going to do that, and the reason being, we're assuming that people are printing these out to be used with actual tapes. So they don't just want to look at it on screen and say, oh yeah, that's what that label looked like in a vector format. They want to use it. They want to print a new label for their tape, right? That looks just like the old one, which means they'll have to cut that shape out, which means I actually want to have just the cut lines and leave it solid blue behind it. And you'll see what I mean here. So first let's draw that shape, okay? So we'll go like this, and I'm actually pulling the corners, all four corners in all at the same time, perfectly rounded, one big round. Love that. And then I'm going to do an outline instead. Okay, so now we can see through it. And I'm going to take that stroke that I made, and I'm going to make it as thin as possible, 0.1. Okay, so very, very, very thin line. And what color am I going to make that? Pure red, FF0000. Okay, and that's on my cut. Oops, did I get that on the wrong thing? I did. I want that to be on my cut layer. Okay, so you can see now, if I turn my cut layer on and off, that shape comes and goes, disappears and reappears. Now, behind it, I'm going to draw my solid blue. Okay, so we'll draw this, replace that, and I want the color to match this same blue as the logo. Okay, and I want it to be behind that black shape. There we go. Lower down the layer a little bit. So as you can see, it's below the black layer, so it means it's behind it. Then we drag it up, match that line up, perfect. And we can bring it in a little bit. We just need it to be wide enough to get past the bleed marks. Now we can see where that cut line is. So when someone prints this out, they can take an X-Acto knife, or if they have a fancy machine like a Cricut, they could tell the Cricut to cut on this line when it prints out. Look for this line and then cut on it. Or they could hide that layer completely and eye it or whatever else. That's why you make it as thin as possible so it'll show up on a print if someone wants it to, but you put it on its own layer also so it's easily findable for someone if they need to find it. Or if you're sending it to a professional printer or something. Okay, let's go back to our text layer now. Let's get this out, this letter B. Great. Scale that up. There we go. Do I have that as solid black? I do. Okay, let's get this EQ. Okay, they're using a slightly different font there. Let's see what it is. It's some sort of sans serif, but it's none of the traditional ones. Let's go to some of my commonly named fonts, commonly used fonts. No. Ooh. It's a very weird Q. No, that's okay. Here's what we'll do. I'm guessing this is going to be like a capital, very similar to a capital O. Okay, draw that out. Pretty close together. Let's get them even closer together. There we go. Okay, and then we'll just draw this shape out. Looks like it's something like this, and it doesn't come out the bottom of it, but it does go pretty wide, and it was pretty thin. Take a look. How does that look? Oh yeah, that looks great. Cool. One symbol at a time, right? Okay, now we got the Adobe symbol. I've used this in the past too, so I have their logo ready. Paste that in here. And this is another symbol that's changed over time. In fact, look at this. Theirs is even more different. They have a cut between it. An old version. Do I have that? Nope. Alright. We'll create this ourselves then. So first thing I'm going to want to do is create that sort of D shape. Like this. You can see it's a little tilted, so we'll have to make a few educated guesses. Like that. And we're going to want, it looks like it's a smooth, pretty darn smooth line, so I'm going to grab both of these. Yeah, there we go. Now how far out? Do I want to make it a perfect curve or a little bit? And it looks like it's probably a perfect curve on those two. Yep, okay. Then I'll draw the shape behind it. Okay. Then I'm going to want to center these two shapes. Great. But also vertically. Great. Okay. So why did I do that? Now that I have these two shapes selected, I can use my Pathfinder to do what's called minus front. And it'll remove that shape from the other. Don't I have... Where's my... Oh, it's the wrong one. I want that in front. There we go. And I'll select both of those. Okay, now I have both shapes selected. Minus front. Pink. Now my Adobe symbol. And we will clone that and reflect it at the same time. So copy it, reflect it. I can see what it looks like. Bam. Okay, we'll drag that over. Straight. And now we have our homemade Adobe symbol. Let's take a look how that looks. Looks good to me. Okay. Let's get this blue line here. Actually, I'll use a stroke. Okay, I'll draw that stroke, the right width. Great. It's going to be 0.5 or 0.75. Ooh, 1 maybe even. Ooh, more than 1? 1.5? Okay, yeah, kind of a thick line here for tapes. Oops. Yeah, that looks like the right width. Yeah, I'd say so. Okay, and we want it to be this color. So I have my shape selected, as you can see. I'll take my color dropper and select the blue. There. Oh. There we go. It accidentally grabbed all the color properties instead of just that specific one. Okay, I'll clone with Alt and Shift and drag it over so that way I make a duplicate at the exact right height. And bring this over slowly. There we go. Okay, now if we hide all this, the background, look at that. We're very, very close, everyone. Final thing to do is you can see this cassette has another cut line right here, sort of a cut edge, and in fact it looks like maybe they've been worn down a little bit. So we're going to go back up to our cut layer and draw another box, the exact size of the shape of the label. So actually this is a little low, but we'll bring this out first. Great. I can't tell where my, there we go, line is. Bink. Okay, now I can. And again, I want that to be as thin as possible, so 0.1 is what I'm going to make it. Very, very thin line. And again, I want my cut lines to be pure red. That way they show up, or you can tell your printer, if you have a printer cutting it, look for the cut lines are exact red, pure red. And did I get it in the right place? Where is it? Yep, there it is. Oh, but I made it too wide. I want it to go right here. Okay, so I want the top two corners to come in. If I just drag them though, it's going to default to rounded and do all four. Don't want that. Let's find the layer for that though. Corner options. I can't remember where corner options are. If I double click it, does that do it? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so we'll take our corner option, and we want to make it kind of a straight instead of a rounded corner, and we bring it in. There we go, 4 mil. So that looks spot on money. Then we grab this one, and do 4 mil here. Great. And now we have cut lines. Okay, that's pretty much it, right? Everything. If I disable my reference layer, there we go. We got a nice, clean label. Okay, now I just need to make the A side. Luckily, that's very easy. I want to copy everything except for my reference, so I'll select it all. Control C it. Then I'll go over to this artboard here, make sure I have it selected, and do a paste in place. Bam. All I have to do is switch that to an A. And we have our 2 cassette layers. Wonderful. Okay, so now I'm going to save that. Let's do an export of it, or actually, I'm sorry, in Illustrator it's a save copy. Okay. Save, and we're going to do high quality print without Illustrator editing capabilities. Save. Wonderful. Now let's see if we can show you that final file. Here it is. And so now you can see exactly what we made it. So I have my PDF viewer to not show white, to show white as to show transparency layers basically. But that just means that all this gray area would print. It wouldn't print any ink. So on most standard printers that wouldn't show up. So you have page 1 here, page 2 here. We're all set up. You've got your new label. You can print it. You would print it out, cut along the lines, and of course the outside. Cut on the inside, and you're all done. And that's how you recreate a compact cassette label in a vector format. Enjoy.